Now let's welcome all of you been waiting for. Suddenly we have picked our attendees went up. So we're gonna get Rich Bernstein, the CEO of MarsVenus coaching. There it is. That's Rich.
Coaching.
Yeah. So
Hello.
he's taken time off, and he's going to talk about why women and men, handle COVID-19 differently, and all that. So he has the floor. I'm giving him 30 to 40 minutes. 30, 40 minutes. Have a go. Everyone, give around. Rich.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me, Robert. I very much appreciate being part of this team. Learned a lot from Michelle. I really love the attitude. I felt very old with Ferris. Thank you, Ferris, for making me feel as old as I am. As a baby boomer, I appreciate that. On a Wednesday night, I needed that. Your Thursday morning. But I am here to talk about something very interesting, and I think that it'll bring everything together that we've spoken about already. One of the biggest challenges we have right now during Corona, and I wanted to talk about this topic specifically, is how men and women cope with stress differently. Because we don't just cope with stress differently, we cope with stress oppositely. And that's really important to understand because that in itself affects our relationships. This virus has affected the world. It's affected the way we do business. As Ferris said, things are moving online. As Michelle, you said, trying to keep a positive attitude. Coco, you have a very unique selling system. So we're all trying to get very creative, and we're trying to be very innovative in how we can stay in business, make money, still have our relationships, and deal with stress, because this whole thing is very stressful. So if you don't think business was stressful before, think about how stressful it is now. So that's what I want to talk about. And I want you to take this not just in the context of relationship, but in the context of business, in sales, in customer service, in leadership, because we try to look at how men and women are different in all of those different scenarios. So that's what I want to show you. I'm going to share my screen. Tell me when you guys can see my screen. And let me make it from the current slide. Can you guys see it? Yes, good. Okay. So how to practice safe stress. This applies to right now. And I want to talk about this particular book. I'm sure you all have heard of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Very famous book all around the world. John wrote it about 20 years ago. What a lot of people don't know is that John has written 23 books, not just that first original book, 23. And every single year, he's looking at what is happening in the world right now, and how does that affect gender? And how does that affect relationships? So it's very important. For example, his newest book that just came out this year, and I recommend it highly, is called Beyond Mars and Venus. And it's how technology is affecting relationships. We are so inundated with Facebook, social media, internet, texting, WhatsApp, all of these. How is that affecting relationships? This particular book is my favorite. And it's only because it's how men and women cope with stress differently and how that affects the relationship. I'm pulling it out. It's been around about, I want to say, 7 or 8 years. But this particular one I recommend because it will not only help you in business, in leadership, in sales. Coco, you'll love this. In customer service, but more importantly, in relationships, in parenting, in everything pretty much we do in life. So let's talk about why are we so stressed out right now. If you guys want to shoot in the chat, give me a couple reasons why we're so stressed out right now. Because I know business has a lot to do with it. Moving online, cash flow, customer service, relationship at home once you get home. So if you think about all the things that you're stressed out about now, add to that what we call unrealistic expectations. If you see the woman on the left, this is a TV show from back in the 50s of a woman who was the perfect housewife. When her husband would come home, the kids had already done all their homework and she had dinner ready and she took off his shoes and she rubbed his shoulders, and every woman that watched that show wanted to be like that. And then we have Barbie in the middle. Everybody wants to have the perfect body or the perfect job. This is so common in our society. And where do unrealistic expectations come from? Think about it. The media, television, movies, magazines. I have never seen an ugly woman in a magazine. I mean, that's not reality for little girls that are growing up. Every woman nowadays is expected to be Wonder Woman, to be Superwoman. This was very difficult to get my wife to put on this outfit for this picture, but I got her to do it for me. Anyway, it's not just for women though, men as well. We are expected nowadays to help out more than my father did, than my grandfather did. We're supposed to be strong like a military man. We're supposed to be handsome like me. No, I mean like George Clooney, and have the great job and make a lot of money. So men have this unrealistic expectation too. This is how I come home from the MarsVenus office every night with my tuxedo and my rose, and I might want my wife to be happy. No, I'm just kidding. That's not even close. So these create unrealistic expectations, which puts a lot of stress on us. On top of that, we have 2 times the burdens of our mothers and fathers. We not only live longer nowadays, but a lot of women work. I don't know about in your generation, but Ferris made me feel really old. And so my parents never worked. My grandparents didn't work, but my wife works. Why? She wants to work. She wants to have her own money. She wants to feel valuable. So many women work nowadays, but you know what? It doesn't take away any of the responsibility of cleaning the house, cooking the dinners, taking care of the kids. We're living much longer. We have COVID running right now. So we have a lot more stress than our parents did. Here on the right is Robert at his office. On the left is JC, one of my MarsVenus coaches. The never-ending to-do list. Everybody can relate to that. We have never-ending to-do. We're always adding to it. We're always adding to our own stress levels. Here's another one. I talked about me coming home at the end of the day. That's me in reality. I'm on the couch with my Cheetos and my remote control, and I just want to shut off. And you know what? We're going to talk about why that happens in a minute. So you'll understand why men do this. So now that we understand where stress comes from, let's talk about what happens when we're under stress. When our body feels stress, what happens? The first thing I want you to know medically, and John Gray has done a lot of study. If you read Why Mars and Venus Collide, he talks about the studies in there. He went to UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles and Stanford in San Francisco. We found that 2 things happen. We produce a hormone in our body when we're under stress called cortisol. The other hormone we produce is called adrenaline. Now, most of us know adrenaline. When your heart beats fast, when you're excited, you know, I think Coco lives on adrenaline. Coco, you are so high energy. I love that about you, and I'm kind of like that normally. But this hormone called cortisol is very interesting. It is the most studied hormone in medicine. People didn't understand what it was until the last 10 years. And what they have concluded is that cortisol is the danger hormone. When you are in danger, you produce this hormone in order to get out of danger, so that you have extra strength in your legs so you can run away. You have extra speed. You have extra strength in your arms so you can lift a car. You have more acuity of vision so you can see clearer. They have found that cortisol is actually a good hormone. It gets us out of danger. Now, here's the problem. Our bodies were designed to have high levels of cortisol for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes until we get out of danger. Here's the other problem. Our body actually reads traffic, stress, corona, work-life balance, too many things to do. It reads all of that as you are in danger. Your body believes you're in danger. So you have high levels of cortisol, not for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. You have high levels of cortisol for 5 or 10 or 15 years. And this is a problem. And I'll tell you why. Because if all of your energy is going to your legs to run away, and all of your energy is going to your arms to give you more strength to get out of danger, do you know what? It shuts down your immune system. We have more illness, more sickness, more cancer than ever in the history of mankind directly related to high levels of cortisol. You know what else happens when all of your energy is going to your legs and your arms and your eyes so you can see clear and get out of danger? It shuts off your digestive system. We have more stomach problems, more obesity, more challenges with digestion than ever in the history of mankind directly related to cortisol levels. Because cortisol is produced because it's trying to get us out of danger. And we're not getting out of danger. We're living with stress every day. So one of our biggest challenges, believe it or not, is not just all these things that we have stress over, but the fact that men and women cope with stress differently actually stresses us out even more. When my wife is at the door saying, we need to talk, I want to talk, let's talk. And I'm going, I want to be alone, leave me alone. That stresses me out even more. So our relationships can be a source of stress if we don't understand this. Hence, Mars, Venus is going to collide because we don't understand this stuff. So let's understand it. Let's talk about a few of the complaints we get from men and women. Women complain that I have to juggle so many things and he doesn't seem to care or even want to help. The man says, but when I offer to help, she always finds something wrong with my suggestions. So why should I bother? Women say, we both go to work. When we get home, why doesn't he pitch in more and help? He says, but she always finds something to complain about. Can anybody relate to this? Go ahead and shake your head up and down. If I can see. This is so common around the world. I have done this training in 42 countries. And whether it's Middle East, Asia, Australia, US, Canada, Europe, they all say the same thing. Like, you're looking through my window. This is happening in my house. Let's look at a few others. He sits in front of the TV all day while I do everything. I'm not his personal maid. Well, she wants everything done right now. Why can't she just relax? Don't anybody on the call tell me you've never heard that, because it happens every day. These complaints, here's a big one. We never have time for romance anymore. He's either working, watching TV, gone, or sleeping. And she says, well, when I'm in the mood, she's either too tired or overwhelmed with too many things to do. This is our lives as men and women. And all the stress you have in your life is added by the men and women in your life. So let's talk about some of the physiological differences that we have. I don't know if you guys know this. In your brain, we produce a brain chemical called serotonin. Serotonin is the happy chemical. It makes you feel happy. It makes you feel grateful. It makes you feel loving and connected. Do you know that men produce twice as much as women do? Do you know that women use theirs up twice as fast as a man? That's very interesting. Here's another one. When men are under stress, they can actually track the blood flow goes to the part of the brain. It's not a science lesson, so you don't have to remember it. It's called the left orbital frontal cortex, but that is the seat of his fight or flight. When a man is under stress, just remember this, he's going to either fight with you or he's going to run away. He wants to be alone. When a woman is under stress, the blood flow goes to her limbic system. The limbic system in the brain, it's over the left ear, and it's actually the seat of her emotion. And believe it or not, it's connected to memory. That's why when my wife is under stress, she remembers every single thing I've ever done wrong for 29 years. I have no idea how she remembers all of that. Every single thing I've done, she remembers. And that's because her limbic system is connected to her memory. This is really important. Here's another really big difference between men and women's brain. If you picture the brain, we have the left and the right hemisphere. We have the two sides of the brain. Women have 4 times more. It's called the corpus callosum. It connects the left and the right hemisphere. It's the connective tissue in the middle that connects the two sides of the brain. It's very important. That's why women, when they think, everything in their life is connected to everything else in their life. Men don't think that way. When they're on the left side of the brain, which is the logic centers, the right side of the brain shuts off. Doesn't even think. It's just the left side of the brain. When a man is in the right side of the brain, the creative centers, the left side shuts off. Women cannot do that. The whole brain is talking all the time. So everything is connected to everything else. The kids are connected to the work, and the work is connected to the husband, and the health, and God, and everything else in your life is all connected. You can't separate those. Men can. And you'll find, I didn't say, Michelle, that men's brains are smaller. I know that's what you were thinking. I said the connective tissue is smaller, just so you know. And that's why a man's brain is very specialized. We can only think of one thing at a time. We're on the left side, we think about that logically. We go to the right side, we think of that creatively. We're not thinking. Women can multitask. Men cannot do that. We only use one part of the brain at a time. That's why men get very annoyed when a woman interrupts them. Think about it. The men that are on this call, do you get irritated when a woman interrupts you from your single focus? And I always use the analogy, imagine in the caveman days, the man only had one job. He had to go out and hunt. He had to go kill the food and bring it home. So imagine a man goes out in the morning and he finds a really big buffalo. And he's standing behind a tree and he's looking at that buffalo and he's got a spear in his hand and he's ready to kill the buffalo. And the wife comes up behind him and says, "Psst, what are we having for dinner? What are you doing? Can we talk? What are you doing?" And he looks away and the buffalo is gone. Don't do that to the man in your life. But also what's really interesting is women are exactly the opposite. They get stressed out when we try to narrow them down to just think about this one thing. They cannot do it. They see the bigger picture. There was once a Harvard study that I read a couple of years ago that, do you know, the more women in executive positions in companies, the more profitable the company is? Because men think linear. They think one thing at a time. What's next? What's behind that? What's next? Women think fractally. They see the whole picture. That's why we don't want to just know the differences between men and women. We want to embrace them, because as a man, I have a woman on my executive team that helps me every day because I want to see her from her perspective and I want her to see mine. So like I said before, relationships can be a source of stress or comfort, depending on what you know. So let's talk about the different ways that we cope with stress. We talked about they are different. Let's get specific, okay? This is how men cope with stress. And men, I know you're going to smile even if you don't have your camera on. Want to go take a drive. We want to go on the computer. We want to shut down. We want to watch TV. And we're not even watching TV, by the way, women. We're just clicking it. We're not watching anything. We're just clicking. We're shutting off our brain. Or we want to fight with you. Or we want to go to our cave. We just want to be alone. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. There's an actual reason that we want to be alone. But first, let's talk about women. When they are under stress, they want to connect. They want to ask questions. I used to ask my wife, why do you ask so many questions? I've never heard that many questions. When are we going to do it? Who's going to do it? What are we going to do? Can we do it? How? When? Who? And they want to bond. We're going to talk specifically why hormonally. This is our body is telling us to do this. And let me tell you why. It's because of these two particular hormones. Men, it's testosterone. Women, it's oxytocin. Now, here's what I want you to picture. If you picture a child's playground, there is a game that they play. We call it in America seesaw, where the child is on one side and another child on the other side, and one goes up and one goes down. It's like a wooden board, and one goes up and down like that. I want you to picture testosterone on one side and cortisol on another. Remember, cortisol is the stress hormone. When a man's body has high testosterone, he has low cortisol. When he has a lot of stress, high cortisol, he has low testosterone. The same with a woman's body, only it's a different hormone. When she has high oxytocin, low cortisol. When a woman produces oxytocin, it actually lowers her cortisol levels, her stress levels. This is biochemically. So I want you to picture that. Testosterone for a man, oxytocin for a woman. Now, let me show you how this works. Testosterone. Most men know, and a lot of women know, that when a man wakes up in the morning, he has the highest level of testosterone. Then he goes to work, and he's doing 4 things. He's fixing, solving, achieving, succeeding. These activities use testosterone. So he wakes up in the morning with a high level of testosterone, very low stress, because men tend to forget their problem. That builds testosterone, believe it or not. And then they go to work. And throughout the day, they're using it up. So they come home at the end of the day and they need to recover. They need to rebuild testosterone. Guess what they do that rebuilds testosterone? Nothing. They watch TV. They go in their cave. They shut down. They take a nap. They read the newspaper. They click on the TV and they're not even watching. They shut off their brain, actually rebuilds testosterone. So now when my wife says, why are you laying on the couch? I'm just rebuilding my testosterone, sweetheart. It's good. This is how men stimulate testosterone, is by shutting down. There's a biochemical reason for it. It's not just we don't want to do it. We need to rebuild our testosterone because we have high levels of cortisol. And internally, we know if we shut down, we rebuild testosterone and we can go back and do whatever. Fix and solve and achieve. Here's something, and this is really important. The best way to support a man is leave him alone. Michelle's shaking her head. No, I don't believe that. You know why you don't believe that? The women are on this call? Because it's not what you need. You won't understand it because you can't. It's like, why would I leave him alone? He needs me. He wants a hug. I do not want a hug. Leave me alone and I'll be back in an hour. I'll be back as soon as my testosterone raises. Let's talk about oxytocin. It's a little bit different. Oxytocin is the nurturing hormone. It's actually produced in the breast. It's the highest level when a woman has a baby because she's nurturing that baby. When they have high levels of oxytocin, it lowers blood pressure. It lowers cortisol. It lowers fear. It creates a connection with that person. It increases maternal behavior. It increases sexual interest. That's what men also have to understand. You want to have sex with your wife? Increase oxytocin first. When a woman feels alone, ignored, unsupported, not important, rushed, overwhelmed, all of these things, that means she has very low oxytocin. You know what that means? She has very high cortisol. Here's what's also interesting. Remember we talked about earlier that more women are working. Do you know the work environment is not good for oxytocin? It's not nurturing generally. It's testosterone generating. It's about linear. It's about what's next. It's about achieving tasks. It's about doing what you have to do to create a profit. It's about selling, as Coco said. It's about customer service. All of these are not testosterone friendly for a woman because women do produce testosterone. It just doesn't lower cortisol. It doesn't do anything. It gives them a little hair on their lip. But it doesn't do what it does for us. When I have high levels of testosterone, I succeeded in that day. Like, trust me, this presentation, my testosterone is flying. Very low cortisol. And I try to do that all day long. So women typically that are working come home with very low oxytocin. And you know what's the big problem? They walk in the door with very low oxytocin, and now they got to cook and clean and take care of the house and the kids and everything else they did before they worked. Everything else our mothers did. So he comes home and says, honey, I'm home. I'm going to go take a nap. She says, honey, I'm home. And now I got to cook and clean and take care of everything. Now her stress levels go through the roof, and they already were there. This is a big problem. So it's overwhelming for women. How many on this call, and you don't need to give me a thumbs up, but you can just, how many on this call get home at the end of the day in overwhelm? Coco, you could shake your head up and down. Because we have very low oxytocin. That's why. So how do we increase oxytocin? This is important for men especially, because one thing I will tell you, remember I said succeed, achieve. If I can lower my wife's stress, then I build testosterone, and therefore it lowers my stress. So I take credit when my wife is happy. You do know that, Robert. Every man takes credit when the wife is happy. And we take credit feeling we're successful. Look, she's happy. Increases testosterone, lowers cortisol. Here's what's interesting. When a woman feels trust or anticipation, I'm going to walk in the door and my husband is going to give me a hug and greet me at the door. When we're helping, sharing, caring, befriending. Here's a really big one though, and a lot of women don't know this. You produce twice as much oxytocin when you nurture yourself. Not nurture others. That's good. That produces oxytocin. But when you nurture yourself, it goes through the roof. Take a bubble bath. When my wife is stressed, I always say, go, I'll run the bath, I'll light the candles, give you a little glass of wine, and I'll see you in an hour. I want to give her that. So she feels I'm nurturing her and she's nurturing herself. Here's another really big one most women can relate to. For some reason, women have a hard time asking for help. But believe it or not, asking for help increases oxytocin. Here's another thing every man on this call will relate to. Asking for help builds the man's testosterone. When my wife says, Rich, can you help me? My testosterone goes through I'm an emergency man. I'm going to help her. Okay, just chop the carrots. Okay, so I start chopping. I want to help her in the kitchen. This is really important that women learn to ask for help more than they do. because men need to feel needed. Women need to feel they're not alone. If a man feels needed, testosterone goes up. If a woman feels she's not alone, oxytocin goes up. This is critical. So she's got an oxytocin tank on, and he's got a testosterone tank on. Here are some things you can do. And Michelle, these are some of the things you talked about. When you eat more healthy, exercise, sleep better, be a little bit more assertive, live in the now. All of these things, like you said, be grateful and live in that little video you had of the children with the umbrella, living in the now, in the rain, that is oxytocin producing. But women tend to live in the future. They tend to worry a lot. And if you are a worrier, let me make a recommendation. Put on your calendar a time to worry. Sounds crazy. But if you put on your calendar a time to worry, hi, whoever's with Coco, hi. If you put on your calendar a time to worry, you know what happens all day? You won't worry because you say, oh, I'll worry at 5 when that comes up. I'm not worried about it now. I'll worry then. Do you know what happens at 5? You don't even worry then because you go, oh, this is ridiculous. What am I going to start worrying right now? It's a really good tool that I've learned as a coach. Here's another thing very important. If you see the women on the one side and the man on the other, it is the woman's 90% responsibility to fill her oxytocin tank. Don't put that on the man. The man has some responsibility, 10%. Because we have a saying at MarsVenus, a man cannot make you happy. A man can only make you happier. Please remember that. These are all the things you want to do for yourself. These are all the things you want to do for others. Schedule a walk, go out to lunch with girlfriends, connect with other people. Here's a good one, hire a coach. Why? Because I will hold you accountable to doing oxytocin producing activities every day. Here's a lot of things that he can do for her. And believe it or not, this bottom one is my favorite. Men, if you really want to build oxytocin, help her without being asked. It's the biggest thing you can do for a woman is at the end of dinner, get up, take your plate, and take the trash before she says, Rich, take the trash. I try to get to it as quick as I can because I'm a MarsVenus coach. Reach out to people. Allow the to-do list to end. Recognize the differences. This is a big one. Women, you need to connect and be heard. Men, you need to escape and feel needed. That is my presentation for the day.